You're watching Fugitive Red Eye, and welcome to another Top 10 video. Last one I did of these was about my top 10 favorite anime series, and so I thought I'd do my top 10 favorite anime characters. However, to make this list easier to do, I've divided it into two lists that are going to be two separate videos. First, I'm going to do my top 10 favorite male characters, and then I'm going to do my top 10 favorite female characters. This is the male characters video. The only reason I've separated it thusly is just to make it easier to get it down to 10. Now, obviously, if you've seen my top 10 favorite anime list, you'll probably expect that there will be characters from those series on here. And there will be some, for sure. There's definitely going to be some overlap between my favorite series and my favorite characters. That just makes sense. However, they are not necessarily going to be in the order of the series, and some of them may not even be from those series. That's just how it's going to work, because characters are different than series. There can be a great series with bad characters, there can be a bad series with great characters. Although I will say all of the series I will have characters from our series I like, so. I did give myself one rule. When it came to my top 10 animes video, I had a couple of different rules. This one I only have the one, other than, it being two different gendered lists. The one rule is only one character per franchise. That's the only rule. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So number 10. Hei from Darker Than Black. Hei is the main character of Darker Than Black. He's a contractor who has no visible price. What a contractor is someone who gains these mystical abilities linked to this mysterious explosion called Hell's Gate that also involves a meteor. It gave all these people strange abilities and also erased their emotions and turned them into superhumans that are just pure forms of logic with super abilities. As the series progresses, you do actually find out that Hei himself does have emotions. And there are tragic elements to his backstory, for instance, the mysterious disappearance of his sister, some stuff involving a former girlfriend named Amber, who does later make a reappearance. And then, of course, there's the OVAs between seasons 1 and 2, which are really fucking sad, and if you haven't seen the OVAs, definitely do. The ones about what happened to Hei and Yin between Darker Than Black seasons 1 and 2. Also, the ending of season 2 ties into those OVAs a little bit, and that adds to it, because season 2 is actually kind of a tragedy, and it's something that kind of gets overlooked when people shit on season 2. Hei's definitely more likable in season 1, because he's more of a badass, but overall, he's a great character, and there's a reason Darker Than Black is a series I enjoy very much. But yeah, that's Hei. Number 9, Ganta Igarashi from Dead Man Wonderland. Ganta is the main character of Dead Man Wonderland, and one day his entire class gets wiped out by this mysterious, superpowered serial killer known as the Red Man or the Wretched Egg. Ganta himself gets framed for the crime and gets thrown on death row, where he's forced to participate in obstacle courses and later battles to the death in an arena. Ganta gains the ability to use his blood as a weapon, as do all other dead men, as they're known, which are people who have had exposure to the Wretched Egg and lived. But Ganta himself is kind of a traditional shonen character to an extent. He starts out fairly weak, kinda wimpy, and then becomes more badass as it goes on. But the thing that sets him apart really is just the darkness of the series in tone. He's very much just your generic shonen protagonist, but because of the setting and what he has to put up with, it makes him a little bit more likable, in my opinion, than some of the others. But yeah, that's number 9. Now on to number 8. Now, with number 8, I've chosen Kakihara from Ichi the Killer, because this time I did not restrict it to just anime. I probably should have mentioned that at the beginning, but I'm also including manga. Although, if you want to split hairs, Kakihara did briefly appear in the Ichi the Killer OVA, but only in a short beginning scene and once at the end. But Kakihara, it was hard to pick between him or Ichi because both of them I like almost equally, because they're essentially two halves of the same coin, whereas Kakihara is an extreme masochist and loves pain, whereas Ichi is an extreme sadist and loves to hurt people. Kakihara is a Yakuza boss who kind of takes the lead unofficially after he gets banished from his main Yakuza and starts his own gang. He's a fucking crazy motherfucker, and while he is completely masochistic, he does have sadistic elements to him too. Torturing people and all this other stuff. Ichi the Killer, like I said, is one of my favorite mangas. The only reason Kakihara is not higher on the list is because, frankly, since it is from a manga, I felt it was more fair if I put it lower on the list. In addition to that, there are characters on here that are definitely better than Kakihara. But yeah, that's number 8. Now on to number 7, Nishi from Gantz. I think his first name is like Joichiro or something like that, but I never remember that because he's always just referred to as Nishi. But Nishi is the 8th grader who is fucking psychotic, sadistic, and twisted in Gantz. He's also the most knowledgeable about Gantz itself, which is why he later comes back in the story, because Kei Korono, the main character, realizes he needed Nishi, so he brings him back. Nishi is fucking insane, sadistic, and overly violent, but for whatever reason, that makes him all the more likable. In addition to that, he does have a softer side, which he himself doesn't even fully understand. For instance, there is a chapter where he saves the life of a little kid by the name of Takeshi, who's introduced in one of the later groups of Gantz, and Nishi saves his life, not even sure why. He also has a connection to Kei, the main character, because he feels that the two are similar, and towards the beginning, they definitely are. But yeah, that's Nishi. Now on to number 6, Guts from Berserk. Now, before you get angry that Guts is only number 6 on this list, keep in mind that I have not finished Berserk. I am still on the original series, and the last thing I saw happen was when Griffith had him assassinate that guy and then he accidentally killed the kid. That's as far as I've gotten in Berserk so far. That said, even only seeing him that far, Guts is still fucking badass as shit. He's essentially a medieval version of Akira Fudo with huge muscles, and is a total powerhouse. There's an episode where he literally kills 100 men completely on his own. But Guts is fucking cool. Like I said, I haven't finished the series, I'm not even that far in it, but Guts still deserved to be on this list, even with how little of it I've seen. He still made that good of an impression on me. Alright, number 5, Takoyaki from Yorotsukidoji, Legend of the Demon Womb. Takoyaki is my favorite character from the Yorotsukidoji franchise in general, which may be a bit controversial, because Amano is, you know, the more iconic character, and I'd say Amano is a close second for me. But Takoyaki I really like just because I'm a big sucker for tragedy, and Takoyaki's entire story arc is literally just one big tragedy. Like, the first introduction we get to the guy, his plane gets taken down by demons, and his entire family is killed, with the exception of the cousins he was going to visit, being Nagumo and his parents. And then later on, he begins to get manipulated by Munchausen into doing all of this evil shit and becoming more and more of a demon himself, because he himself gets possessed by a demon, starts to do all of these horrible things while in his demon form and killing people and doing all this stuff. And he doesn't want to do that. He's constantly fighting against it. But because Munchausen keeps manipulating him and feeding these negative emotions and driving him to be more and more beast-like, eventually he becomes the villain of Legend of the Demon Womb, which is Yorotsukidoji 2. And that whole arc, as I've said multiple times, is my favorite Yorotsukidoji arc. So Takoyaki is the big reason for that, just because of how tragic his story is. Alright, on to number 4. Light Yagami. Light Yagami is my favorite character from Death Note. That might be divisive because some people, in fact a lot of people, probably prefer L. But you know what? I've always liked Light a little bit more. Don't get me wrong, I love L. L is a close second for me as well. But Light, you get to see his progression from being a kind-hearted individual into being a insane, kind of narcissistic, Machiavellian, you know, god complex guy, where he just starts killing criminals indiscriminately. And granted, we see him basically make that transformation right from the get-go. You don't see a lot of the sweet, good-natured Light towards the beginning. But in the Yotsuba arc, which is one that a lot of people don't like, that's when you have Higuchi writing the names in the Death Note and Light having no memory of the Death Note. It's the whole arc where Light gives up the ownership and he doesn't remember anything because it helps him, you know, with his cover and helps him basically establish that he's not Kira to L. During that entire arc, we get to see the original Light Yagami and how his personality is in wanting to track down Kira. And I really like how you get to see two sides of Light. When he's just straight up Light Yagami, he's a really likable, kind-hearted, sweet individual with a strong sense for justice. When he's Kira, he's got a god complex and takes that sense of justice and twists it into trying to basically change the world for what he views as the better, but ultimately making it a totalitarian world. Like I said, I like L a hell of a lot too, but Light is just a little bit more likable to me. But yeah, there's Light Yagami. Number 3. Jotaro Kujo from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Some of you may be surprised that I put Jotaro Kujo above Light when I put Death Note above JoJo on my top 10 list. Again, the series and the characters don't necessarily match up in placement for me. Jotaro Kujo, I've finally come to the realization, is my favorite JoJo character. Part 3 isn't my favorite arc, mind you. I'd say if you twisted my arm and told me I had to pick a favorite arc immediately, I'd probably say Phantom Blood just because of the story. And then second would probably be Diamonds Unbreakable, and then the others would follow pretty closely after that. But regardless, Jotaro is easily my favorite JoJo character. He's very much the kind of badass who doesn't give a fuck what you think of him. He doesn't give a fuck what you have to say. He's gonna do his thing, and he's gonna save the day his way. He seems hot-headed to people who may not be as familiar with JoJo, but really Jotaro usually keeps his cool. He's one of the most level-headed, cool-headed individuals in the show. The only times he gets angry is when he needs to. And that's the only reason he's able to succeed in saving the world towards the end of Part 3, because the main villain pissed him off. And I'm not saying who the main villain is, because I consider that a spoiler for Part 3. A lot of people don't, because everyone already knows who the villain for Part 3 is. But had I not known it, I would not have had the expectation of that character being the main villain. And if you've seen JoJo, you know why that is. So, that said, I'm not going to say who Jotaro defeats at the end of Part 3. I mean, it's pretty obvious the good guys are going to win, unless it's unless it's a tragedy, which JoJo can be. It definitely can. But anyway, enough about that. Jotaro is cool, he's buff, he's got the best stand in the series, in my opinion. No stand beats Star Platinum. And he's just got a cool voice and attitude. And he's a fucking thought destroyer. One of my favorite catchphrases Jotaro has is yakamashi, which means you're annoying. He constantly has these girls swooning over him, and he'll just basically say, you're annoying, shut the hell up, go away. And I love it. And he does the same thing when he returns in part 4, when Josuke has all the girls swooning over him. Jotaro basically tells him to get his women to shut up. Jotaro does not have time for that kind of shit. He doesn't give a shit about romance, really, or anything like that. And, obviously, I've only seen the anime, so I've only seen parts 1 through 5. I've read the first chapter of part 6, but Jotaro's presence in parts 3 and 4 are what make him such a likable character. I think part 4 Jotaro I like more than part 3 Jotaro. Overall, Jotaro is my favorite character in JoJo. But yeah. Alright, number 2, Kenshiro. You know, I've always had trouble picking between Fist of the North Star and JoJo. They're very close on my top 10, and these characters are very close in my top 10 as well. Because Kenshiro is such a likable character. Kenshiro is the most good-natured, sweet-hearted, heroic character I've ever seen in anime. He's pure pureness in its purest form.
Holy moly! You are pure pureness in its purest form. It's almost irritating.
Kenshiro goes around and he saves the innocent from evil. He defends the wasteland, and he's overpowered as shit because he's got the Divine Fist of the North Star going for him. He also has a great character arc with, Rei, Toki, Rao, Jagi to an extent, but not really. Jagi's a very easily forgotten character in Fist of the North Star. But Kenshiro was essentially designed after Mad Max, and was heavily inspired by Mad Max, but he was also heavily inspired by Bruce Lee, which is why he has very similar combat style to Bruce Lee. And Kenshiro can hit a pressure point and just make you explode instantly with one hit. That's what makes Kenshiro so cool and so high on this list. Alright, now on to number 1, Akira Fudo from Devilman.
Yes, I know, shocking.
If you've been watching my channel, then this should come as no surprise to you whatsoever. Obviously, Akira Fudo is going to be my favorite anime and manga character. Akira Fudo is the shit. He starts out as a normal, kind of wimpy high school student who merges with a demon to become Devilman. And when he merges with the demon, he becomes a lot more badass, a lot more confident, and a lot more cocky to an extent, for sure. He also becomes more aggressive, more violent, and more of a delinquent. Akira Fudo has a great story arc with his love interest Miki. He also has a great character arc with his best friend Ryo, and obviously there's a whole big story arc with that, which if you're familiar with Devilman, you're familiar with, but I'm not going to go into. Obviously Devilman is at its core a tragedy, and there have been 3 canon installments to Devilman. There have been several non-canon installments too. The 3 canon ones being Devilman, Devilman Lady, and Devilman Saga. And Akira's growth throughout all 3 of these main entries is part of why I like him so much as a character. Granted, I've only read, up to chapter 43 of Devilman Saga, and that's still being written as far as I know. But yeah, it's pretty obvious that he was going to be my number 1. Now some of you may be thinking,
God damn it! Where the hell is Jack? Fuck them chicken shit! Fuck it! Shit! Fucking shit!
The thing is Violence Jack is a Devilman character. Whether you're gonna argue with me about that or not is irrelevant. Point is, I said 1 character per franchise, and I very much consider Violence Jack a sequel. I know that that's not necessarily the definitive opinion of the fan base, but I've made it clear multiple times that that is my opinion, having read as much of it as I have. And I've seen the final chapter. I've seen translations of the final chapter. I haven't read the whole thing yet. I'm still on volume 9 out of 18 of the complete edition, but that's because I've been caught up in been busy with other shit. But yeah, that's why Violence Jack isn't on here, is because, well, frankly, he's a Devilman character, and again, there's more to it than that, but I'm going to try to avoid spoilers here. But yeah, that's my top 10 male anime characters. Obviously, it's by no means definitive, because this is just the 10 I could think of off the top of my head. I did put a decent amount of thought into it, but obviously I've seen countless series, so who knows if there's some I missed. You know, obviously I could have put other honorable mentions on here, like, the other JoJo's. I could have put Kei Korono from Gantz on here as an honorable mention. L from Death Note, definitely an honorable mention. Bondo from Elfen Lied. Naojiro. The only reason Naojiro isn't on here is because, I don't feel like he necessarily stacks up with these characters. I do have an obsession with Naojiro, and he's one of my favorite characters of all time, but I don't think he holds a candle to these guys. Obviously, a Monojaku could have easily been an honorable mention, and I'm sure I could keep going on with that. But that's all I really have to say with this. Have a good one.
The Scarecrow walks at midnight, and he will kill you. You will die.